Hey everyone, welcome back to DirectConnect. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk a little bit about something that's, I think it's really important, the Dragos Poland report. So I just want to kind of level set on this important topic. And earlier this month is when Dragos published this intelligence report. Actually, it was in January on the cyber attack against the Poland's electric system. And we'll throw a link up for everyone who wants to, go request a full report directly from them. And just to be clear up front, we're not going to rehash the report line by line. That's not the point of this conversation. But the signal in that report, that's absolutely worth talking about. And here's the Dragon report in a nutshell. I just want to get this out there. What happened in Poland was not a blackout. Nobody lost power at scale. There was no transmission system that was taken down. And from the outside, it looked like a non-event. But that's actually where the trap begins. What the report shows, and it shows it very, very clearly, is that a sophisticated adversary gained repeatable access to distributed energy systems, wind, solar, CHP, remote sites, edge assets. They disrupted communication and they degraded visibility and they damaged some equipment beyond repair. That blows my mind. And then they stopped. That's the key part. This wasn't a turn the lights off operation. This was a proof of access operation. It showed we can get in, we can move across multiple sites, and we understand how these systems are built. And if we wanted to do more, we could. That's not a cyber accident. That's a message. What really matters here isn't Poland. It's the shift. For decades, the industry has been obsessed with centralized assets, control rooms, substations, big gen, big transmission. Meanwhile, the grid has been changing right under our eyes. We know it. We've seen it. There's more distribution. There's more remote access. There's more identical configurations and more of, we'll fix security later. And this attack, it basically, it's the universe tapping the industry on the shoulder and saying, hey, the edge of the grid counts now. And this is where I got to be honest. Nothing in this report surprised me. I'm sure it didn't surprise you guys either. We and a lot of people like us have been warning about this exact scenario for decades. Distributed assets treated as second-class citizens. They just have been. Remote access treated as convenience instead of like part of the critical infrastructure, and visibility gaps normalized because it hasn't been a problem yet. And this report introduces that risk very, very, very clearly. It actually confirms one has happened. So what I want to throw to you guys, I don't want to really get into the technical details, not the malware, not the attribution, but the concepts. What does this say about the grid in its evolution? And what does the industry keep, why? It's not what, it's why does the industry keep underestimating the edge? What do you guys think?
We kind of talk about often, there's kind of two sides to this, right? There's the cybersecurity component of it, and then there's the impact to operations component as well. And you guys are much more versed in the cybersecurity, implications of this. But the edge was when it comes to an operational perspective. Again, you said it, Stacey. They didn't lose power, but they lost visibility. They lost awareness of their system. They lost operational awareness. And if you don't have operational awareness, you don't have visibility into what's happening on your system, that is a recipe for disaster. I mean, it's like someone driving a car behind, right? As long as the road is straight, they may be able to keep it in the road. But as soon as that curve hits, disaster's happening. So I think that's one of the big things that continues to come up. And as you said, also, this isn't a surprise, but it is another, here's another example for you.
Yeah. And it's that there's becoming a blur between cyber issues and operational issues because they go hand in hand, right? You can't
Absolutely.
really separate them as much as you used to be able to. I don't know. What do you think, Brent? You got any insight on that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating proof of concept, and I think that you said that at the top, right? It's a proof of concept because of the nature of the attack, the nature of the threat, and the threat vectors used. When you look at Poland's infrastructure, and it's really not that different from ours. It's smaller, obviously, than what we have in the United States, but when you look at it right now, they're about 30% in the distributed energy space, right? Whether that's
Mhm.
solar, wind, biomass, or others. So 30% of their new generation capacity or generation fleet is leveraging these distributed energy resources, and they've introduced a new risk to these, the control system that used to be the holy grail, right? That's what
Right.
everything was focused, all the controls were focused in that space, and now they're showing the capability and capacity to attack and leverage the network infrastructure, SQL databases that sit in the corporate side, and then manipulate those systems to gain access to the operational technology systems, right, on the OT side of the house. And it's a really interesting use case when we look at our grid and ask the same question. Are we vulnerable? Brian, you mentioned situational awareness and the lack of visibility across the system. Well, we suffer from the same thing. When I think about the BES reliability operating services that are called out in SIP2, one of those is situational awareness, right? We have to have visibility and line of sight to these systems so that we know what they're doing and we can manipulate those things and change them when we need to. Without that visibility, you don't know. You're flying blind. And operating in that space is a scary, scary place. I'll also add, we've talked for years, as Stacey mentioned, about the threats and vulnerabilities that these edge cases or low impact systems. We think about that. They are our weakest link. Why have we, to this point, not done the right things from a security practitioner's perspective to shore up our most vulnerable systems, right? To shore up those weakest links. And I think that's what I took away from this report and how we can use it in North America in the NERC and FERC space is, we have to be aware of this. And as we connect more and more of these distributed energy resources, we are introducing additional risk.
Absolutely. And it's so real. And that's what, it's been frustrating for a lot of security practitioners in the energy sector, because we know this weakest link story is nothing new. It's something that security, cyber or physical security people have been talking about, not for decades. This has been talked about since somebody had something to own and steal. Back to the caveman days. The weakest link is your focus point, and we always tend to go to the biggest issue first. It's all or nothing in my case, but and that's why I get a little frustrated when we talk about NERC SIPA for the electric sector. We got high, medium, low. No, it's all critical, right? So that's important stuff.
I appreciate the conversation. One of the things that Brent said that I want to pivot from NERC and FERC, being former FERC staff, and having been there when international attacks have occurred in the past. The first thing that the commissioners are going to ask FERC staff is, what would the SIP standards have done today to protect us from this attack? And in a lot of cases, the answer is going to be little to nothing, right?
Hmm.
Particularly with the, if this was all distribution. I mean, obviously we know distribution's primarily out of scope, just a few little ties in there in SIP2 for NERC SIP. But even at the low impact, a magnitude difference in the level of controls that secure those systems as compared to the higher impact. And this proof of concept certainly demonstrates the vulnerabilities. And there's not a whole lot of details on exactly what the avenue of compromise was, but certainly looked like the wide area. This wasn't just
Hmm.
one site. This was coordinated, multiple sites. Um, yeah, what you see coming today in current revisions to the SIP standards is a reaction to this same question. When I believe Dragos is essentially crediting it to the same threat actor from the Ukraine attacks a decade ago. We're just now getting the fallout from that attack incorporated into the SIP standards. Hopefully, it doesn't take another decade if FERC orders anything for the industry to be more prepared. But it'll certainly be interesting to see the regulatory reaction to this.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And as we know, this industry, and unfortunately, it's a fact. If you don't have mandated requirements, they take second priority to everything else, which is something we really need to learn how to turn on its table, right? We got to turn that over because security needs to be a core function of your business model. It can't be something we put off because we live in a digital age. Period. There's no question about the connectivities that we have now in critical infrastructure, and we're not going to go backwards. We're not going to at all. So pretending it doesn't exist is crazy, and we have to treat that as a core business. And usually that is a problem with staffing and not doing anything unless being told you're going to get some fines or sanctions. That's a wrong model. That doesn't put you in a good place. And I do know that some of the more progressive solar and wind or companies that are aggregating their control systems are really trying to be super serious about this. That is fantastic. I love seeing that. But this is the entire industry issue. So, one or two examples are great of really good security, but the majority, we know this, they are not there. And then, so when we look at that, what do we have for organizations that don't have mandated regulations on them right now? Obviously, NERC CIP has brought in IBRs. That's great. Fantastic. We're getting IBRs into there, but we still have distributed systems that are they're state level, obligations. And the states have some exercise, some standards that have been written. And NERC has done a great job of getting a collection of cybersecurity requirements or whatever you want, guidelines that would be useful, but they're still not mandated. So I don't know if you guys do. Do you know anyone that's adopted the NERC standards? I haven't heard of anyone. I think state of Michigan talked a lot about it last I talked to them, but maybe that's just because I was in the room with them. But I worry about that. I don't know where we're going with it.
I look at it, Stacy, your comments are interesting. I look at it from the concept of, okay, well, there's no regulation to kind of drive the behavior. So what can we do, right? And I think we should offer some obvious solutions here that we talk about. This week early, and I'll leverage a story that we were dealing with, right? Notepad++, a commonly used tool on pretty much every system out there. Had an identified vulnerability that was exploited, right? They were able to figure it out and they've since resolved it. But if you're not patching those systems on a regular basis, you're going to struggle. There are going to be vulnerabilities that you're going to expose to risk, whether it's a DER, an IBR, or any of these edge case devices. There are vulnerabilities out there and you have to be aware of that. So I think securing the edge is where I would start, right? I want to have strong electronic security controls, so firewall, routers, that are updated, that are patched on the regular. I also want to look at the internal systems just downstream from that network infrastructure, like my database servers that may be sitting there, ensuring that I have a strong foundation or core security perimeter around the edge, right, through firewalling. And then I have a true program that allows me to patch these things with some level of frequency will help limit the risk factors and limit the risk exposure that our utilities are facing. I think those are two things that you could do that every entity could spend some time, effort, energy on putting some money toward.
Well, I would add on to those things that you just said, add in staffing properly, get adequate staffing levels for the size of your organization and for the program. And then also training. And that's just not training your staff on phishing or vishing. This is training your operational staff on and your security staff on what's going on and how they can become continuous improvement opportunities that they can apply into their organization. Operationally, though, Brian, you made some really good points. And I look at this, the operation part of this. I think, when I talk to operators, system operators, field techs and everything, they have an idea of cybersecurity, but they don't necessarily know where those gaps are, and how to take that to the next level of resiliency. And I don't know what thoughts you have about that.
Well, I think that goes back to a couple things. One, it's awareness, right? And then once being aware, actually addressing the issue, and whether that's through training, whether it's through new technology, staffing, and having people focused on the issue. When years ago we weren't as dependent and integrated with the DERs, right? And so as they grow, that vulnerability grows, and as our dependence grows, then on these DRs, then our vulnerability grows as well. So it's kind of this snowball effect that if you're not paying attention to it, it's like, oh yeah, 2 years ago that mole was the size of a pinhead, and now it's the size of an eraser. Now it's the size of a golf ball, and finally you wait until it's the size of a baseball before you start looking at it. It's like, no, you need to take a proactive approach when you see that this thing is starting to grow and become impactful to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just heard, I think it was just today, I heard someone say, we don't have to worry about patching because we're on a private network. What the whole concept there is broken, because we know that it's so easy to sneaker net into these things, and those are the educational elements that really need to be addressed, because that was the concept several years ago, is that we're air gapped, we're isolated, we're not connected. But even with the isolations that you put in place today, there's a way in. And there always is, and Idaho National Lab proved that when they blew up a generator in their demonstration of getting in there and changing those phases on that generator really fast, and actually broke it. I imagine that's similar to what happened in this once we learn more details about this Poland attack. But certainly good. We're coming up with time here, so I'm going to just kind of do a roundtable to close this out. And hopefully, Leonard, you're still on. You're in my upper left quadrant here, so I'm going to pick on you first. If you can just give me your final thoughts on. I'll pose a question. How's this? If you had one thing to tell a small operator that just does distribution of some sort, or is just a small IDR, what is that one thing you would tell them to do?
Secure your no, seriously, no, pay attention to this, the additional reporting on this incident. Find out what the avenue of attack was, and don't wait for that to be regulated. You need to, be aware of that threat vector and protect yourself accordingly. I'm sure there's lots of different approaches. It doesn't necessarily have to be the gold standard. There probably is a lot of basic cyber hygiene that was not being followed in this case, and
Yep.
as someone that has a vested interest in the reliability of the bulk electric system, I hope that you will do more.
There you go. Brian, what's your thoughts? Parting words.
Parting words are: recognize that grid transformation is happening, whether you like it or not. It is happening, and it's happening at lightning speeds, comparatively speaking. And so we need to ensure that we're aware, and then that we are meeting that, the issues that are coming up, and whether that's energy policy, whether it's large loads and data centers, or whether it's increasing level of IBRs or resource adequacy. You pick the issue. It's one about being aware, but then training, and then staffing with not just bodies, but bodies with the right knowledge to help you to address these issues.
Awesome. I think that was like 10 things, but that's great. I appreciate that. Brent, what's your one thing that you would give to advice you would give to one of these smaller utilities?
I think Leonard and Brian framed it up perfectly. But I look at the distributed energy resources specifically. Every remote access path to a DER is a potential risk vector, and the amount of the volume of reliance on vendors and third-party vendors that are coming in to administer and manage these systems on our behalf because staffing is tough. becomes a huge risk factor for me. So I would say, I would add to what Brian said, it's training, what Leonard said, secure these things, right? We got to make sure they're secure through that, securing them at the edge and then patching them internally.
I guess one is a lonely number.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's fine.
There's like 5 things.
I'm trying to think of a single thing too, and I can't think of one. It all comes down to me, though, is, I would advise someone that is really, really struggling with doing the right thing. I would say do something. Don't get overwhelmed. Start with the basics. And if you don't know how to do it, hire out, get a third party that really knows what they're doing, and look for organizations that look for practicality and are adaptable and flexible to your size of organization. Don't expect, that a giant, Fortune 500 consulting firm is going to understand you as well as a small boutique company like Archer would. So that's my parting words. Thank you, everyone, for coming and listening to us. Thank you, Leonard, Brian, Brent, for your insights. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Your support drives us forward. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications, ensuring you never miss out on valuable insights. When it comes to safeguarding your business, Archer is your trusted partner. Explore our robust solutions at archerint.com. Get in touch with an email or phone call and fortify your company's defenses. We value your input. Share your thoughts, questions, or topics you'd like us to cover, and tune in every other Wednesday for a brand new episode of Direct Connect.